who's just come in, you'll
Well,
know.
Clifford asked, I think.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I've had a chew on. It's taken me till this time just to get me screencast to work. Hopefully you can see the screen. So,
Yeah, we have them days.
oh man, what a pain. Anyway, let's start by just throwing a bit of a ground down. So I've just added in a plane, and I'm going to scale it up a bit. In fact, I'll just tell it how big I want it to be. Yeah, 10 by 10 meters will do for now. And I will go into edit mode. You can either go up here and choose from object mode to edit mode, or you can hit the tab key. Tab takes you into edit mode. Right click, subdivide. You can see it's kind of split it. It's got some lines there. We can increase the number of subdivisions. I'll scroll it all the way up to the maximum of 10, and then maybe once more. That'll do for now. And then not sure what I'm going to do here. We'll turn on proportional editing by either clicking this button here or hitting the O key. And we're going to choose random. And then I'm just going to pick a few vertices, just hold down shift and select a few. Move them up, so G for grab, and then Z to move them up just on the Z axis. If we don't choose Z, it can go in any direction. So I'm going to choose Z to lock it. And then increase the sphere of influence a bit. And just so we get something that looks a little bit kind of hilly. I'm not sure I really want those. Let's try some a bit closer to the edge. Just something like that.
Ooh.
And that just gives us a little bit of a bumpy ground. We could try shade smooth. Doesn't look that great. Maybe I will apply a subdivision surface, so control and 1, and that gives us a little bit more. That just smooths things out a bit. It does give us a lot of geometry, but it's just the one object. It's just the floor. I'm going to apply all so that when you go in you can see what we've got there. So that's going to be me ground. And I'll apply with control and A. I'm just going to apply the rotation and scale. This should be fine anyway, but it's a good practice to do that before you export stuff. So we'll then export it. I need to set up my project. So this one is just a plain empty scene. So I'm just going to put it in its own folder. And we'll call it trees, because we're going to be working on trees. And I'll save my scene into trees, and I'll call it trees. Why not? Because we can. So I'll export this, and to export it into Unity, do File, Export, FBX. FBX is the preferred.
Can someone mute themselves
format.
in here? I'm getting an echo.
It's Bart. I turned this volume down.
I'm muted.
Thanks.
Oh, is it me? Okay.
Yeah, I was getting feedback from him.
Yeah.
Okay. Should be good now.
Okay. You can also do F4, E for export rather, that wasn't right. F4, E for export, F for FBX. It's a nice shortcut, and we're going to call this ground, and we want the selected object and just the mesh. Export that. Back into here. I haven't exported it in the right place because I'm an idiot, so let's try it again. It needs to go into D, Banter Projects, in here, Assets, Trees, and then do it. There we go. back in here. There's our ground, and we can bring that in. F to zoom in on it, and we've got a little bit of a landscape that we're going to put some stuff on. So I now want to give this a texture. I'll probably give it a grass texture, seems reasonable. So this is a nice website, 3dassets.one. Pretty nice website. You can
Is it still doing it? I don't think so.
no, it's not. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
You can choose your
Put
favourite
another headphone.
sites, or you can, I mean, if I just deselected all of them, we'll get everything from everywhere. But I've got my favourite places I like to use. Ambient CG, Polyhaven and CG Bookcase are pretty good, and they're all free. So I've searched
Is 3D
for
Asset one question?
Mm-hmm.
Is 3D Asset like same as Sketchpad?
Is that, Lisa?
No, not really. It's mostly for like textures and HDRIs. You will find the odd 3D asset as such, you know, the odd model, but it's really, really useful for textures. And as I say, I've just typed in grass, and nearly all of these are either HDRIs like skyboxes or textures, and nothing really else. I don't think there's a single model in there.
Is this a free
It is free.
site? Or
It's
you
a
have
kind
to
of,
get
it's like a search engine specifically for things like this, for assets, which you can use for, you know, 2D stuff, for Blender, like renders and things, or whatever you want really. But they're excellent for VR. So I'm just going to find one of these grasses.
Okay.
I quite like this one. We'll just use the first one here. That'll do. And I'm going to use a JPEG because we don't need transparency, and it's a much smaller file. You'll see the 2K one here is 35 megs. If you went for PNG, it's 67 megs. So it's a lot better, just to, unless you want a really crisp image. But hell, at the end of the day, you're going to be optimizing it for mobile headsets anyway. So just go for the JPEG. We'll download that, and then I'm going to
question.
unzip it.
Lisa, you got a question?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So in here, when we're doing worlds, I know like in Horizon, it matters about how many megabytes and gigabytes and stuff. Is still the same over here too?
That's a good
It
question.
is.
Like-
If you're going to
like
be
you-
using a mobile headset, for instance, like Quest, then you need to be optimizing as much as possible. At the end of the day, you've got to remember it's basically a mobile phone that's running your headset. And there is a limit to how much it can
Okay.
handle. It's only got so much processing power. It's nowhere near as powerful as PCs that people have these days, and a lot of people have really overpowered ones, and you can make incredible worlds that will run on PC if you've got a tethered headset. But with a mobile headset like the Quest, you really need to optimize as much as possible. So try and keep your meshes
Can you
as
give a
small
good
as you
example,
can.
Lisa?
An
Lisa.
example of optimization.
No, a good example of what happens if you don't optimize. Because it used to be like an alt space. You had a world there,
Yeah.
and there was like there was like the specific thing that I built, but it was very compact. There was a lot of geometry in it, and the moment people went in there on their Quest headsets,
Yeah, I
their
know.
frame
I know
rate
the
dropped
one.
to like 1 or 2, and
It
they
did.
just like they couldn't talk anymore, and they basically crashed.
Yeah,
So that's why it's really important that you try to optimize a little bit.
yeah. If you optimize it, you're going to have the best experience. It's going to be a nice, smooth kind of experience. If you start having drops in frame rate, that you'll notice it. It will be jagged. You'll be moving jerkily, and it's just not a good experience at all. And the worse it gets, like you say, eventually a headset will crash. Like I say. Yeah, Bart made this world, and it was absolutely brilliant. It was a 3D painting basically, but every single brush stroke was its own mesh. And so you can imagine when on a mobile headset, well, this was back in the days of the Oculus Go as well, you've got to remember as well. So it wasn't a very powerful headset, and people used to spawn in and instantly freeze. They couldn't do anything, they couldn't move, they were
would-
stuck on frame 1 and never got to frame 2. But it
would
ran
overheat.
perfectly on PC. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So where was I? Yeah, we were just doing the I was just bringing in the textures for the grass. So I'm just going to put in the colour. Has that copied over? Yes, it has. I'll not bother with anything else at the moment. And I think I have amplify.
Oh, you don't want to create a material, you're just going to do your own.
You know what? I'm just going to create a material. And I'm just going to make it one of those mobile unlit ones that supports a light map. So mobile, unlit, supports light map. We'll drag that onto the ground. And then I'll just drag the texture up to there. And then, see, this is why I tend to not... I think what I'm going to do, rather than adjusting the material in Unity, I'm just going to unwrap this. And I can show you this. This is a pretty cool thing to do. And a projects. Yeah, assets, trees. If I open the actual texture itself, you can see it fits perfectly. But if I was to increase the size of the UV, and I'll just change the material view there, you can't see it because we don't have a material set up, so we'll call it grass. I'll just bring it in here and plug it in. So now you can see the grass is way too big, but if we increase the size of the UV, the texture gets smaller and starts to repeat. So oh goodness,
That's not bad.
not bad. It's not the best texture I've ever seen, but you know, it still needs... It's more like a moss than a grass, isn't it? Never mind.
Yeah.
We're going to use it anyway. So export FBX. I'll just overwrite the ground. And then when we come back to here, there we go. That's a bit better. So we've got our ground in. And it's a bit bumpy, which is just what I wanted. So now, this is where the fun bit starts. We're going to try this tree thing. This comes from, if I can find it over here, Evolved Software. It's free. It's available on Steam. There is an installer. I've just got a copy, like a zip file downloaded, so it's not actually installed. It doesn't affect my registry. It's just in a folder under Banter Projects, and I just start it when I need it. Whichever you prefer, you
What
go
does
with
it do?
what's right for you. Once you've got it started up, you get something like this. And the easiest way to learn how to use it is just to open up one of the pre-made trees. So I'm going to open up this maple here. Maple.tre. And you get a tree.
Ooh. Nice.
But was
tree.
that your tree or their tree?
Wow.
This is one of the free examples that comes with it.
Oh.
It even moves.
It does. It
I
doesn't
know,
once
right?
Oh,
it's exported,
Yeah.
of course. This is just to show you what you can achieve. But there's loads of different parameters
So you
that you
can't
can play
export it
with.
with a moving tree.
No, it doesn't have animation.
Bummer.
So you could,
how's it
for
doing it, though?
instance, increase the number of trunks, and you can see it's split there. I've changed that from 1 to 2,
And a shadow.
Yeah.
3. Trunk segments. We can split the segments. I don't know what I've done there. Sides, divisions, split. And there it's split, and we've got it coming off in 2 parts, 3. Yeah, so lots you can do. These are some of the fun bits where you've got curvature, and I think there's a crinkliness thing, which is quite good. Trunk crinkliness. And it goes all
It's a bonsai
weird
tree.
and wonky. Yeah. Crinkliness rate, which is quite fun. Oh, don't want to exit. Yeah. Lots of stuff you can do.
quite
We've got
cool.
it bending over now.
What file format does it save to?
You can export it to, I would recommend, I've tried all of them. It's supposed to export to several, but the only one that works for me is OBJ. It does have FBX,
really?
but
Oh.
it doesn't work very well. I would recommend OBJ. I usually bring it into Banter because the leaves are single-sided, so you only see the leaves from one side, which is a bit crap because it makes your tree look very, very sparse. So I usually, well, I'll show you what I do. I'm just going to bring in this tree again as it was. And I'm not going to change anything. You can change materials and all kinds of things with this. Yeah, here you would change like the bark material. Well worth having a play around with all of these different parameters and seeing what it does. But if you're happy enough with the tree you've created, look, I've got one I made already. We're going to export it as an OBJ, and I'm going to pop it into, what was it called again? Not me. There we go. Trees. Maple. But then, rather than just bringing it straight into Unity, well, I'll bring it straight into Unity and show you. So there is our maple. And the first thing you'll notice is it's enormous, because when it exports it as an OBJ, it's 100 times too big. So you've got to basically scale it down
It
to
is big.
0.01.
Yeah.
And then it's the right
Wow.
size.
Oh, that looks nice.
However,
Yeah.
you'll see that, yeah, the materials aren't set up. The leaves haven't got the transparency on them, and they're also, are they? Yeah, they're transparent from one side. You can only see them from one side. So your tree looks a bit weird and a bit sparse. So what I normally do is I bring it into Blender. So F4, I for import, O for OBJ. I look for it in my the correct folder. So D, Blender projects, and trees, maple. I find it easiest to find me files this way and then just drag the location across. And then there's me maple, and then first thing I can do, I can scale it down for a start with, and I've just done S.01 and it scaled it down to 100th of what it was. Period key to zoom in on it. So we've nearly got it working. I think what I want to do is fix the material first of all, because I don't like it when it's black like that. So we'll make it alpha clip on the leaf. Have I got the right one selected first of all? No, that's the bark. That needs to be opaque. leaf maple alpha clip. Still not working, so we'll go into shading. Come down here, drag the alpha into the alpha, and that should have it fixed. There we go. So we've got our leaves. I've gone into edit mode. I'm going to deselect everything by double tapping A. I'm going to hit the 3 key on your keyboard, not on the numpad, to go into face mode. I'm going to double check that these aren't double-sided. Turn off proportional editing for a start. And they're not. So what we do is down here in the materials section, make sure our leaf maple selected and hit select. And any face that's got that material applied to it, so you'll see the bark, the trunk isn't selected because that's bark. So leaf maple, select. I'm going to duplicate all the faces by hitting Shift and D. Right click to drop them in exactly the same place, and then hit Alt and N, which will bring up your normals, and just hit flip. And that way you've got faces that occupy in the same space, but you've got 2 sets of normals facing either way. So you will get your leaves looking correct. They won't disappear from one side but only be visible from the other once in Unity. So F4, export.
Gonna to be vertex fighting?
No, because the
they're, like,
normals are
exactly
facing
on
in
the same
opposite
place?
directions. No, you won't.
Okay.
That only happens when the normals are facing the same way.
Okay.
So export FBX, and I'm going to call it Maple again, but we're going to use the Maple FBX this time. What I should have done, apply the rotation and scale, and then do it. Maple FBX. Back here. I'll get rid of this one. In fact, no, we'll leave it in as an example. And I'll bring in my new one. Is this the FBX? Yes, it is. So bring in the new one.
Ooh.
And you can see straight away it's way more bushy than this one, because you can see all of the leaves, even right the way through to the other side, whereas you can't really with this. There's not much going on there at all. This just looks loads better. So we need to set up the materials for it, because it's just got the built-in ones which aren't right. So with this one, I'm going to create the leaves first of all. I'll just call it leaf, and we will zoom in on here, and I'll just drag it onto one of the leaves to start with. Little bit of a cheat is to use Autodesk Interactive Set to cut out, and that will just make it automatically give you leaves. And not only that, but it will actually, when you bake it, the shadows you get will not be shadows of square planes. It'll actually have the shape of the leaf, and it's a very quick and easy way. It's not all that performant, but as long as you're sparing with this particular shader, you should be all right. The bark, I'm just going to do another one of these. In fact, I'll just duplicate the grass, and I'll just call it bark. And brack even. And then pop that on there, and it looks like grass because we haven't plugged in the bark texture. And that will do nicely. Now, it doesn't look like much. It probably doesn't even look as good as the bark on there, but that's because this has got real-time shadows going on. This one hasn't because it's an unlit shader. You'll only get the shadows once it's baked. So we'll do the whole baking thing. We'll go to the directional light and I'll add, because I use bakery mostly for speed, you can absolutely use Unity's built-in lighting here. You just need to create a new lighting asset and you're set up ready to go. You can the default settings are pretty good to start with, and you can just hit generate lighting. But the first thing you need to do is to mark your object as ready to bake. They tell it it's got to contribute to global illumination. You can do that by ticking this ticky box here. If you also want to be doing things, which you should for performance again, like baking your occlusion, etc., then you not only need to tick this box here, but you need to tick all the relevant ones in here. Is it going to be an occluder? Do you want things to disappear when it's in front of the tree, etc., etc.? If you want to be a bit of a cheat, just tick that and it just ticks everything. It's not going to make a massive difference to the performance unless you've got a hell of a lot going on in there. So the light will add a direct light script because I'm using bakery. The ground, yeah, we want that also to have shadows baked on it. We will also add a collider to the ground, and I'm going to make it a mesh collider in this instance. This is the original maple tree. I don't know what's going on under here. Okay, so it's actually exported those as separate objects. I'm not going to do anything with that. And this is the new maple tree. So shall we give it a bake and see what happens? Keep our fingers crossed. Have I got everything right there? Yeah. And hopefully it's not going to take too long. While that's baking, I'll just minimise that for now. Another cool thing you could do is possibly to move this off the ground completely, and we'll select the ground as well as the tree. Ground has to be in yellow. If I select the tree, that's yellow. I want the ground to be yellow and the tree in a reddish orange. If you hit F3 and type in scatter, you'll see something comes up, scatter objects. Where is it? Here you can change some of your parameters. So the scale, I'm just going to make it full scale kind of thing. Randomness, fine, we don't want it to rotate except on the Z. Yeah, and I'll just kind of see what happens when I do this. Ooh, millions of trees, that's way too many. So we'll undo that. Do it again. Now density I'm going to turn right down to maybe 1.84, I don't know. Try that again. And we've got a nice selection or collection
Forest.
of trees. Yeah, we've got a little forest going on, which is quite nice. And they're all, it's the same tree, but we've got a little bit of randomness in the rotation, and we've got randomness with the scale in it. Yeah, it just looks quite nice, and we've got a weeny little baby trees under here as well. So yeah, as quick as that, you can make a forest. However, translating this over to Unity is a bit of a pain. We'll have a look at this to start with and see how our trees getting on. The reason the leaves are looking very greyish here, two reasons. First of all, I've got the roughness at 0.5 and we want it fully rough. So it was looking a bit shiny and weird and grey. But We've also got a bit of an issue with the shadows. You can see here they're very kind of weird and blocky, and one of the best things to do is to just, has that worked on there, I wonder? Oh, I've got the wrong thing selected, that's why. You could try turning up the scale in your light map, which will just make your shadows work a little bit better. But you see, using this Autodesk Interactive is really nice. The shadows there actually does look like leaves, and it's not, if with many other shaders, and I've never worked it out with Amplify, how to get it to work properly, you end up where every leaf is totally opaque. The light doesn't go through, the shadows aren't baked correctly. So even though you can see through the leaves, you still get square shaped shadows, which just looks rotten. So yeah, I'm still working on that to get decent shadows with transparency. This is the tree without the baked lighting, and this is the tree with the baked lighting, and I'm sure you'll agree baked lighting is the way to go. Not only does it look cool as hell, but your headset won't be doing any real-time light calculations while you're in the world. It's all pre-baked and it's all done for it, and it's got very little work to do other than render out the actual meshes with the textures on them. So yeah, highly recommended. Now then, how we're doing for time? 10 minutes. Eesh, lordy. In order to make these trees real items, real objects, shall we say, that you can bring into Unity, this is where it gets a little bit difficult. I'm just going to use this second few that I did. It's a little collection there. You would go to Object, Apply, Make Instances Real, and you've suddenly got all of these trees here. I'm going to put them into a separate collection, new collection, and I'll just call it trees, so I can keep them all separate and I know what I'm working on. I've just hit the / button there to isolate it, so I can just look at that one tree. I'm not going to apply the rotation or the scale on this. I want it to be exactly as it is, and I'm going to export it, and I'm just going to call it temp, because it's a temporary placeholder basically. And then if we go into Unity, let's just bring that over a bit so I can see a bit more what I've got, and have a look for temp. Did I put it in the right place? I hope so. Trees, temp. There we go. So there's my little mini tree. All I would do is right click on transform, copy component. I can delete that now. I'll duplicate this tree, right click, paste component values, and we've used the same mesh but as a new tree basically. Another thing you can do, actually, having said that, you know, I hardly cover this, and it is really cool. If you've got everything set up on your object exactly as you want it, with the right materials, if you've got colliders, you need colliders on it, you've got those added, everything's fine, you've got it set as static, this is perfect, this is exactly what you want. Just drag it down here into your folder, and you've now got a prefab, and any changes that you make to the prefab, you would amend your prefab by double clicking on it, And then if you want to add anything to it, you know, a little light source, you want to put any like child objects like lights in the trees or whatever you want, it will update all your other prefabs that you're going to use. So like I say, I bring in the temp. I probably still got it in my memory, but there you go. Copy the component, I'll delete it, and then I can literally just find my prefab, which is here, drag it in, transform, paste, component values, and it's got the same scale, the same rotation, everything. It's all ready just to bake. So done that one, I'll hide it. I'll go to my next one, export FBX. I'm going to overwrite that temp file back over here, drag in temp, transform, copy component, we'll delete it, we'll bring in the prefab, and it is actually putting all the trees in exactly the same place as they would be here. Obviously with a forest like this, it's a bit of a pain. It takes a long time to do, but it looks great if you've got the patience. Blender scatter is way better than the methods of scattering in Unity, unless you buy a plugin, which I'm guessing somebody will have made one. I would recommend you do it that way. And in fact, I made this a couple of days ago, and I had to do that with because this is the same mesh, the same prefab all the way along, and I had to do it with every single bench because for some reason the scattering just didn't work right. The two sides weren't lining up properly, if that makes sense. So in fact, you know what, I might stick a few trees outside here. I think this would be quite cool. Yeah, maybe I think what, you know, what would be nice, maybe next week, because this was just a little bit of a fun project. How about next week we'll make a couple of different trees and we'll scatter them outside so it looks like this little church cathedral thing is all surrounded by trees rather than just the skybox. Oh, we can't do it next week. No, sorry, I forgot to say next week. Oh man, there's not going to be any Spacemaking for beginners for about 3 weeks, I'm afraid. Because next week I will be in a hotel down in Folkestone ready to catch the shuttle over to the European mainland on the Sunday morning. And I won't be home until 2 Sundays after. So, yeah,
Well,
I'm
have a
very
nice
sorry,
trip.
but there won't be anything for
Give me a
about 3
chance to
weeks.
catch up.
But when I come back, we'll finish that. We'll get some different trees made. We'll have a bit more play around with tree it. We'll make a few different ones, and we'll make a little forest that's going to be surrounding that church, and then we'll
Right on.
go and visit. I know I promised last week would upload something and visit, but like I say, I couldn't get my screencast to work, so didn't have time, I'm afraid. So
Thanks, Lisa.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa.
We've
Thanks,
still got
Lisa.
5 minutes if anybody has any questions or would like me to go over anything or would like me to show them, even just, you know,
5 minutes.
anything you'd like me to show you how to
I'm
do.
gonna go and
If
watch
I've got the
YouTube
answer, I'll...
videos.
You what, sorry?
I'm gonna go watch the YouTube videos the 3 weeks you're out.
Oh, there's a
Yeah.
whole playlist there. There's
Yeah.
like at least 15 videos, right, Lisa?
There's
And
a
all of
few,
them
yeah.
take
there's-
like an hour.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn there. Really, it's good information.
It's okay. I'll go through them. I'll take my time and go through them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll give me practice in Blender and Unity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely start from the beginning, because I know the very first one, it was the absolute basics, just showing people how to navigate,
Yeah.
how to find their way around in both Unity and Blender as well. and the basic controls. Once you've got them down, learn the hotkeys. That's my advice with Blender. Learn the hotkeys and you'll fly through, because it was built for speed basically, which is why they're all there. Yeah.
So I actually have a quick
Alright,
question
cool.
about light baking. I notice in this classroom where we are, a lot of the light is baked pretty well. But on the floor, there's a sort of an aliasing jaggedness, and I guess you don't know the solution or you would have done it. But I'm a little curious if you have theories about what's happening or how
Yeah.
you could
Well,
resolve that.
jagged edges are caused by just the resolution of the shadows. If you were to increase the scale of the objects that you've got jagged problems with, if you increase the, let's just go back to Unity quickly
Maybe
here.
the light map scale, because on the desks it looks
Yeah.
great. But
So
the floor,
here,
it's
where you've
all
got scale and light
kinda-
map, if I select the floor and scale and light map, if you increase that, you can't with the floor. It says it's reached its maximum size. But with smaller items, it definitely works. Increase that, and basically what it's doing is it's if you double the scale, you're doubling the resolution of the light map. So
Well, that floor in your cathedral looks pretty great, actually. Those
well,
shadows.
you know what? If I get rid of these trees and just have some, because I want this to be as quick as possible. As just not for me. I just don't want you to be sitting around waiting for the light to be baking. But if I stick in a cube, and I'll just reset it to the middle, bring it up a bit. So basic cube. Now the lighting, I'm just going to clear out the bakery lighting here, and I'll get rid of that script. And bakery, clear bake data. Okie dokie. So now we're going to use Unity's bacon. I'll change it to
Bacon.
GPU for speed. Have I got that set to static? Yes, I have. So let's just see how quickly it does this. Hopefully it's not going to take too long, but man, Unity is slow. It's just the fact that when you use bakery, you can't actually inspect the light map images very well within Unity, whereas you use Unity's light mapping, and that actually doesn't look bad. But if you were to open the light map file, you can see both the UVs. This is the ground UV, and this is the cube. And if I go to baked UV overlap, so you can actually see it, if I zoom right in, each one of these is basically like a pixel on your image. So the smaller your UV is, the bigger these little squares are going to be, and that's how you get the jagged shadows, because each one of these is either going to be, it's going to be a solid colour. It's going to have a value of 0 to 1. It's either going to be white or black or some shade of grey in between. But that's basically because your light map is just an image. So if you think of it like a pixel on an image, the higher the resolution, the more pixels you have and the less jagged your shadow will be. And as I say, by increasing
maybe
the
a
scale
floor-
in the light map, so this cube here, if I was to increase the scale to say 5, for instance, and then rebaked it, you'll then see when I look at the light map again, it'll be the UV will be way bigger and there'll be a lot more
Chippiness.
pixels. But yeah, I'm going to say pixels just for ease of understanding. Yeah. Well, I shouldn't have increased it to 5, should I? Because according to this, we've got 4 minutes to wait now. Hopefully it'll be done in a minute. Oh, we're down to 2. Oh, there we go. Stephanie's in VR chat.
Do you compress your light maps?
No, I don't. Because I use Bakery and Bakery compresses them anyway. It creates much smaller light maps than Unity does.
It's almost there.
There we go. And now you can see the UV for the box is probably bigger even than the ground. And when we zoom right in, got way more resolution now. So, yeah, that's basically how you get around it. There isn't always much of an answer when it's a massive surface though, like a huge ground. You can do it if you were to cut your ground up into chunks, I guess. If you've got a huge area, you could just cut it up into smaller pieces, shall we say, and then they would then be baked individually and you would be able to increase the scale then. But again, you've got to keep in mind how big your light map's going to be as well, because just for this and the ground here, we've already got up to 2.7 megs. I'm sure you can understand how you can easily get into the realms of hundreds of megs of light maps if it's a really big space, in which case you got to kind of decide, well, maybe I'm just going to have to suck it up and have low resolution jagged shadows if that's the case.
I also noticed it looked like you had a 1024 image. Do you recommend sort of 1K light maps for performance? Obviously, bigger would be sort of more accurate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At the cost of...
Yeah. I mean, you could go bigger. You absolutely could. But you got to remember as well that you need to be optimizing all of your textures for mobile headsets as well. So where I would, not only would I be going through all my textures here, you know, override for Android, I would usually reduce these down to 512 for Android, but also the light maps as well. I would be going in here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. And I'd be selecting them and overriding for Android as well. And if I'm going to be making massive light maps, I usually keep it about 1024 for Android though.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Good to know.
I have an unrelated question.
Unrelated.
How do... yeah, because I'm new. How does you get the avatar to sit down?
You just stand in front of your chair and pull your
crouch.
Your right thumbstick down to crouch.
Yeah, it's the right.
Oh, so I have to physically do it?
Yeah.
Or it's on my...
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I'm already
you're
sitting.
asking about seating like a pilot position.
Like this? You go down.
Like they're sitting. I'm standing. I'm sitting at home.
Yeah, they're just crouching.
Yeah.
They're just crouching.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's just using the thumbstick. We don't have like an option to sit like they do in VR chat or anything in banter. I don't know if that's going to come. Wouldn't be surprised if it's something that they'll be working on, but I'm sure it's not really high priority. It'll be on the back burner if it is.
Oh yeah, it was just a curious question. So you're actually standing at home, and then you squat down, Bart.
No. Crouch with your
No,
thumbstick
no.
on your left controller. I mean, on your right controller.
Oh, on the controller, right controller.
So when you pull
There
Yeah,
you go.
there you
There
go.
you
Now you're
go.
sitting.
That was a pretty good crouch.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Was,
good
wasn't
squat. Yeah.
Nice.
I
doing
learned a lot
squats.
in
Burn.
class today.
with them calves.
Good for the quads.
Ah, okay, cool.
Hey.
All right.
Well, I'm going to stop the recording.